Hey, what's up? I'm Jeff. So I just wanted to make this video to kind of update you on some projects that I've been working on. After I uploaded the last video, I just immediately started getting ready for Maskfest back in September. And I was really excited to be a part of that one because I've been to that convention several times just as a fan over the years. And I was really excited that they let me be a part of it because at the time, I didn't have any masks to sell. So there's two conventions that are happening simultaneously in the same building, technically. So there's Horror Hound Weekend, which is upstairs in this convention center. It's in the Sharonville Convention Center. And downstairs is where Maskfest is. And I was really excited to be a part of that because, I've been there several times, and that's where all the good stuff is down in Maskfest. I'm not trying to say anything bad about anything in Horror Hound. I love Horror Hound too, but Maskfest is where you get these guys who are just, creating their own original masks and sculptures, and it's really impressive, and it's really cool to be accepted as a part of that group and be a vendor there. So the first thing that I wanted to do was to redesign my logo. The logo that I was using before was it was just a font that I found online. I just typed out Creatureville and I was like, that looks good enough for me. And then as I've been doing more conventions and art markets and things, I felt like it was time to nail down a real logo, because I was just sort of using that weird font logo as a placeholder. I knew I would eventually have to make a real one. So I got this little cutout here. Can you see it? You would have seen this at the beginning of the video anyway. But yeah, that's the new logo. So once I created the logo, I wanted to make a new sign. I always got a lot of nice compliments on my old sign, and people would ask me what I made it out of and stuff, and I was always like, well, the letters are just made out of foam. And so I just thought, people were impressed by the foam letters. I'm going to take it a step further. I'm just going to make the whole sign out of foam. I wanted to make the whole thing out of foam because on the old one, there's a piece of wood. It's like a thin piece of wood. And I just kind of wanted to redo everything because there's a lot of reasons. Like the way I had my old table set up wasn't really working for me. So I just thought I would completely redesign my entire table. So I recorded the entire process, and I was going to make a video showing how I made this sign. And I actually started working on it. But it was getting to be crunch time for Maskfest, and I was like, I don't really have time to edit a video right now. I've got to make stuff for this, which has also been another reason why I haven't been making videos, is because it eats up so much time when you're making things. So or at least for me it does. Maybe I can figure out a better process of filming stuff and editing. But just making a video slows down the process of whatever project I'm working on. And I just sort of felt like I need to kind of focus on getting this done right now and worry about the video later. And then I also shot the process of making this display. It's behind me here. That thing right there, the Freaky Faces display. I recorded the whole process of making that thing, and I'm going to make a video of that at some point. So yeah, Freaky Faces, that's another thing. So if you've seen any of my previous videos, I did 2 videos. One was of how I made a mad ball. I think it was just called I Made a Mad Ball. And then there was a sequel to that where I just made a package for that mad ball. But I don't call them mad balls, I call them Freaky Faces, but they're inspired by mad balls. Maskfest was coming up, and I wanted to make some Freaky Faces. So you saw in the previous video, I made a little Dracula guy. I just thought I'll just design a few more and then make a little display for them and try to sell them at Maskfest. And they actually seem to do pretty well. They sold better than I thought they would, and people seem to like them, and which is awesome because I like making them. I'm learning more and more techniques on how to paint these things, and I feel like the paint jobs are getting better on them. So it's fun to see like my progression for painting these things, and then also it's just fun to learn techniques and kind of play around. Once I had designed all the freaky faces that I was going to bring with me to the convention, I thought it would be neat to have some cool way to display them on the table. And instead of just making like a little shelf or something, I wanted to, fix it up, make it look cool. When I was a kid, my parents would go shopping at this department store called Hills, and on the end caps in the toy aisles, they would set up these awesome dioramas, and I was always fascinated by that as a kid, and I wanted to bring an element of that to my table with these freaky faces. And so I'll have a video of that out at some point in the near future, I hope. So you can see these guys on the table over here. They're little Frankenstein busts on plaques. I wanted to make a bust of Frankenstein, and it just wasn't working out. I couldn't print it the size that I wanted to because my 3D printer isn't big enough yet. But yeah, so I figured out a way to just I cut it in a certain way so that I could just print out just the front and the head, and I put it on a plaque, and then I designed a little metal band to go around the outside edge, and yeah, I really liked how it turned out, and I might actually make one of those for myself at some point. So one of the guests that was at Horror Hound / Maskfest back in September was Cassandra Peterson, aka Elvira. I was really, really excited to meet her, and I wanted to do a piece of art that I can make prints of and then have her sign one, So I had the idea to do this big like acrylic painting of her, and I did it, and I just hated it. The entire process of doing it felt like such a chore, and it just wasn't looking the way I wanted it to look. And I don't know. It's not like the worst looking thing in the world, but it's not what I wanted it to be. I really had high hopes for this painting, and I really wanted it to look good. And I feel like I didn't hit the mark on it, which turns out to be okay because Cassandra Peterson ended up canceling her appearance at that convention. I think she had had to go see a friend who was sick or something. That was a project that just kind of felt like it was it kind of took the wind out of my sails a little bit. Because I'd spent all this time, and I was I'm painting it, and I was just every night coming home from work and sitting here and painting this thing. And the good thing is that she's going to be at this next convention that I'm working at, and I've had an opportunity to make a new piece of art. I'm in the process of working on it right now, but I'm liking it a lot more than the painting. So the next one will be better.
Well, my next one will be better. Hello?
Yeah, so for my table, I wanted it to really pop and do something interesting. I met a guy at Horror Hound a couple years ago, the first time I had done Horror Hound, and his name is Hamilton. He's a super nice guy, and he invited me over to his table, and he showed me the way his table is set up, and I thought it was really, really cool. It's he was just showing me how he made it, and it was he was like, oh yeah, I made it out of cardboard and PVC pipes, and and it was great. His setup looked so good. It was really kind of whimsical, kind of reminded me of Wayne White style art, and he had LED lights, and he was like, yeah, just make it out of this cheap stuff, but it looks great, you know? And so I kind of had that in mind. I knew I wanted to do a new sign, but I wanted to do something extra. I wanted to create, I had this idea to create a canopy on the table. And my first idea was really a little overambitious. I had planned on making these columns out of foam and then carving stone shapes into them, and then, you know, dry brushing and doing all this stuff. And then, you know, the whole thing, I wanted it to look like stone, and I was going to have moss coming down, and I was going to put lights on it, and like, you know, little candelabra thing, little candle holder sconces on the columns. And I was really like shooting for the moon. And I had, you know, I had to kind of come back down to earth and be like, okay, what can I actually make? And so I decided to just, you know, going with the canopy, I would just make a frame out of PVC pipe and then make the actual canopy part out of fabric. And I wanted to use black and purple striped fabric, but I couldn't find any that I wanted, so I ended up just buying a big piece of purple fabric and then painted with acrylic paint. I painted black stripes on the fabric and just used that. I should also give a shout out to my mom who helped me out with that. She's my go-to if I need something sewn. She likes to sew things. I used a lot of Velcro to kind of keep the canopy fabric on the front. And yeah, I just tried to give it a few extra flares. I was thinking, you know, if I did a convention where I'm in a dark corner or something, or if I was outside and it's nighttime, I would want it to be lit up. So I put all these different lights inside of it. But I just recently got these two lights on Amazon, and they're perfect. I wish I had found those last time, but you know, because they light it up really well, and I didn't have to make anything. Like, I had a lot of lights hanging from different spots, but I think this time around it's going to be even better. So after Maskfest, I had posted a lot of photos on my Instagram, and people saw the freaky faces, and a few people reached out and asked if they could buy some. And I was like, yeah, sure, I'll just make whichever one you want, you know, because I 3D print them and then I hand paint each one. So I made about I got about 5 different freaky faces for a few people online. And that was cool because they were also able to kind of choose what color they wanted their freaky faces to be and stuff. But what I really like about doing these is just sort of, I like to try to paint each one different from the last one. So I don't really necessarily want them all to look exactly the same, even though I've done that. But lately I've just been trying to paint them different ways and give them different hair colors if they have hair. It's just fun to experiment and see, you know, if you can come up with a cool, weird way to make them look, you know. So for this convention, I've designed a bunch of new freaky faces, including, my favorite one is Stankenstein, I think. He's my version of Frankenstein. And I just really wanted to do something different from just the flat top Frankenstein that we know from, you know, the Boris Karloff Frankenstein and Glenn Strange. Here's one right here. So I have an unpainted one here. I wanted to have an exposed brain, and I wanted to put like a little dome on the top, which is a look that I've seen other artists do as well. But I just love that. I love having like a little dome that you could just imagine some like popping off to like make little adjustments on the brain, you know? I gave him this big brow because I wanted him to look sort of like the Todd McFarlane Incredible Hulk. the way that Tom McFarlane draws Hulk. And I should also mention, I got that idea originally from my friend Chris Butler, who did these amazing illustrations of the Universal monsters years ago. But he did them in his own style. And he was telling me his inspiration for, he made an illustration of Frankenstein's monster, and he had this giant brow. And he was telling me that was his inspiration. And I was like, ooh, I like that. So I tried to do something similar with this guy. But I wanted to give credit to Chris because he gave me that great idea. Yeah, Frankenstein is, if you don't know, Frankenstein is my favorite monster. And yes, I call him Frankenstein. Who's got the time to call him Frankenstein's monster all the time? When I say Frankenstein, you know who I'm talking about. But this guy's not Frankenstein. He's Stankenstein. This is another thing that I had to make. So these things, when I first started making them, I couldn't really get them to... Some of them will sit down on a flat surface okay. Like this one probably does. Yeah. But like some of the other ones, they want to kind of roll around. So I wanted a way to keep them from rolling around. So I made these little stands and I printed them on my filament printer. And each freaky face has a little hole in the bottom. And the reason the hole is there, when I print these things, I have to hollow them out and put a hole in the bottom because it needs a hole or else it will crack open and ruin the print. But because I have that hole, it gives me a place where I can make a little stand, and I had it taper so that kind of no matter what size of the hole, it'll still be on there. At Horror Hound Weekend this coming March, they're going to have several actors from the movie Scream there. And so like Matthew Lillard and Skeet Ulrich and David Arquette and Jamie Kennedy and the guy who does the voice, the guy who was the cameraman. There might be a few others. But anyway, I wanted to make a piece of art that I could print and then have the cast sign it. And then I could also sell it at my table. I probably won't be selling it online just because, I don't have a license for that. But I will sell them at this convention. So my idea for the Scream print was I wanted it to look like an old comic book. Like I wanted it to look like a page out of a comic book with panels and everything. And almost like the opening page of a comic book where, there's like the big action shot and then you introduce all the characters that are in the issue. And at the bottom of the page, it says the title of the issue or the story, And so I had this idea to just make it look like Ghostface was busting in the door with a knife and Sydney's in the foreground on the phone and she's like turning, because she's surprised, And then I just added some little comic booky type of text to it and introducing all the different characters. And then, but yeah, I was pretty happy with how it turned out. I for the colors, I tried to make it sort of look like a 80s black and white explosion comic almost. Before I even did the Scream print, I did another print in a similar style of Frankenstein's monster. And it actually, I was so excited about it when I made it, and I was very proud of it. And then I put it online for sale, and I sold 2 of them. But I'm not complaining. It's fine. That one was for me. And I'm okay with that. Last year, when I was getting ready for Maskfest, I was going through all the prints that I have that I bring with me to conventions and art markets. And I was just looking through them, and I was like hating all this artwork. I was like, I don't like any of this anymore. Like, I'm sick of looking at it. I feel like I could do better now. I kind of want to just do away with all those old prints and just start over and do new prints. And so instead of just scrapping everything at once, I'm kind of I had the idea of trying to kind of replace certain prints with better ones, and I also had this idea to do a certain style of artwork for this. Obviously, I'm a huge monster fan, but I'm also a huge comic book fan. And I really love the way the opening splash pages looked in Jack Kirby's comics. Lots of other people have done them the same way. It was sort of like the standard layout for an opening page in like, the 60s and 70s, basically, where it was just like a big money shot of some character, but there might be like a little panel here or there, but it would be like a money shot of the characters doing something, and then the title of the story, right? And I really liked the way that looked, and I wanted to do that, but with monsters. I wanted to kind of marry the two things together that I love. And so I did this Frankenstein's monster print, and I was trying to color it to make it look like an old comic book, which I know is not like the most original thing. A lot of people do that, but I really like it. I just love comic books. So I did a Frankenstein, and I just recently did a Wolfman, which is back here on the table as well. And I actually thought the Wolfman turned out better than the Frankenstein print. I'm really proud of how those turned out. I really am happy with them at the moment. Next year I'll hate them and want to do new ones. But for now, I'm pretty pleased with how they look. This past Christmas, my wife and my in-laws went in on a Cricut cutter for me for Christmas as a gift. And if you're not familiar with Cricut cutters, it's a cutting machine. People use them to cut out vinyl and make decals for your cars, or there's tons and tons of ways to use a Cricut cutter, but it basically it'll cut out whatever paper or fabric that you need it to cut. And I've wanted one of these for a while because I've wanted to do like those die cut Halloween decorations. And years ago, I created a bunch of artwork with the intention of making die cuts with them, but I didn't have a Cricut cutter, and it's really expensive to have them printed somewhere and actually make a die for each different design. So I was really excited to get this Cricut cutter, and I've been making all of these die cut looking Halloween decorations, and they're not actually die cuts, but I call them die cuts because, like die, I don't know. It's horror related. I don't know. I might change the name at some point, but for now they're called die cuts. But yeah, I was able to finally make those now, along with a lot of other things, which I think kind of have really elevated the look of my table. I can make things and cut them out, make them look better, make them look more professional. So yeah, that thing was a big help. And very, very excited and humbled to have gotten that gift. So thank you to my wife and my in-laws. So a few years ago, I did these illustrations of kind of, my versions of some of the classic Universal monster characters. And I wanted to change them up enough to not infringe on anyone's copyright. I made some stickers with those illustrations, and like no one really bought them. And then I made a plush Frankenstein, like a little stuffed Frankenstein. And I had those for like 2 or 3 years, and I finally sold them all at a Maskfest this past September. And then after that, people were like reaching out to me and wanting to buy more of them, and I was like, it took me like 3 or 4 years to sell those, and now there's a demand. Not a huge demand, like 2 people, but so for this convention, I decided to make some more, but these are much smaller. The Frankenstein plush that I made before was about this big, and the new ones are more like that big. And I made not all of the monsters that I designed, but I've got a mummy and a Dracula and a Frankenstein and a Wolfman. And so I don't have a lot of those, but they'll be for sale at the convention. That's another thing that my mom helped me with. She likes to have a project to do here and there. She's retired, so it's kind of, she likes to sew and do that sort of thing. So another thing I've been doing is making vacuum form masks. So when I was at Maskfest, one of my vendor neighbors, Steve, I forget what his company name is. I'll just put it right here. Anyway, I was talking to Steve, and I'd done these illustrations, and they're actually ones that I've used to make these cutouts back here. There's like a Dracula face and stuff. I had those on display in front of in the front of my table last year, and he was like, those would make really cool vacuum form masks. And I was like, yeah, they would, wouldn't they? So I was like, I'm gonna give that a shot. So I sculpted the faces of Dracula and Frankenstein and a witch in Nomad, and then I 3D printed them on my filament printer, and then I took those forms, and I bought a vacuum forming machine on eBay. So this is my vacuum form machine. I bought it on eBay, and it's pretty simple. It's just a wooden box with a series of holes drilled into it on the top. I would say it's pegboard, but they're too small and close together to be pegboard. So, but it's very nicely done, very, very nicely made. I can't remember who made this, but I bought it from some guy on eBay. The end of my vacuum did not fit the hole on the machine, so I had to 3D print a little nozzle to go on it to stick the vacuum hose onto it. Finally, I became a mask maker. I just started making these vacuum form masks, and I've really enjoyed making them, and I've really enjoyed painting them too. A lot like the freaky faces, I'm trying to paint each mask differently. I want each one to be its own unique design, which is kind of hard to come up with new designs for each one. So, I mean, I'll probably end up repeating some at some point, but it's fun to just kind of make up whatever. Another thing I made for this convention was another shelf that matches the Freaky Faces display. I bought this little acrylic shelf to go down there, and it was too small for the Freaky Faces, and I just thought, like, I just got to make my own. And I actually bought too much foam when I was making this Freaky Faces display and the sign. So I actually have a bunch of foam left over from those projects, and I was able to just really quickly go and grab some pieces of foam and cut them out and make a little shelf that matches the rest of the Freaky Faces display. And it holds several of these guys. So it holds about like 18 of them, which is more than the first display holds. The first one only holds 10, so it's pretty cool. And it's all held together with magnets, so I can just pull it apart and stack it together and put it in a plastic bin and take it home. So it's good for packing up and traveling with. I have a lot of other ideas, a lot of other projects in mind that I want to do in the coming months and years. I just hope that I can find the time to do them all. And then also, I would love to make more videos. I would love to record the process of making things. I don't enjoy the narration side of making those process videos, but I think it's something I'll just have to get used to. It just doesn't feel natural to me yet, but I'm hoping to have some more videos coming up soon. So like I said, March 20th through the 22nd in Sharonville, Ohio is Horror Hound Weekend. I'll be there, and I'm pretty sure I'm going to be downstairs at this one, so don't forget to go downstairs. But yeah, it's going to be a really great convention. I'm really excited about it. There's going to be a ton of amazing guests there. Like I said, there's going to be like 6 people from Scream, and Cassandra Peterson, Adrienne Barbeau, Joe Dante is going to be there. I cannot wait to meet Joe Dante. But yeah, there's just like tons of great guests. The Karate Kid's going to be there, you know, from that Karate Kid horror movie. I don't know why. I don't know why the Karate Kid's going to be there. And William Zabka, Johnny. So Ralph Macchio and William Zabka. And I love both of those guys. So like, I don't care if they haven't been in a horror movie. I'm happy they're going to be there. I really hope I get to meet them. So after this coming Horror Hound, I've already got a table ready at Maskfest in September. I forget the exact date. I want to say it's like September 15th or something. I will look that up, and then I'll put the date right here. So that's when Maskfest is going to be. And in the same place, at the Sharonville Convention Center in Sharonville, Ohio, which is right outside of Cincinnati. And it's a really good time. Lots of cool guests, lots of cool art. Just if you like horror geeky stuff like this, you should come check it out. I did for years. Before I actually became a vendor, I was just the guy that went to these things and loved it, and I still do. For Maskfest, I'm gonna have more new stuff. I'm hoping to sculpt some more masks, and vacuum form those, and then design some more freaky faces and make some new prints. And I'm sure I'll hopefully come up with some other ideas. I'm upgrading my resin 3D printer, and so that means I'll be able to print bigger things, and I can print more things at a time. So like at the moment I can only print 1 freaky face at a time, but when I get this new printer I'll be able to print 3 at a time. So that'll speed things up, I hope. So but yeah, hopefully it won't be as long between videos, and I will talk to you then. See you later.